Good morning, CSL Carlsbad. My name is Reverend Lori Mack, and it is my joy to be with you here this morning. I got on Facebook Live a little bit late because I had technical difficulties, but I'm here and I am with you, and I am grateful to be here. Today, I'll be talking about harvesting the faith, and what a beautiful topic that is when we are dealing with God as our life on a daily basis. So before we start, why don't we do what we love most, and that is a spiritual mind treatment to start us off on the right consciousness, in the right consciousness. I invite you to close your eyes and to go within, as I recognize that there's only one power, one presence, and one essence of love and light that is seeking expression through all and as all. And I know that I am in God and God is in me, that I am that expression of the Most High in everything that I say and everything that I do and everything that I am within my own mind's eye. I am that essence of wholeness and love and light. And as I know this is my perfect truth, this is the perfect truth for each and every person who is listening to this call right now. I know each person is that divine, individualized expression of the Most High. Each person is that light, that love, that beauty, that individual expression of God, expressing yourself to your fullest potential in life. And I am grateful that we come together as one, just to remind ourselves of the faith of God that is always at our fingertips, knowing that whatever it is that we believe in, that we can achieve, we can bring and fulfill our dreams at any moment's notice. And how grateful I am for this. How grateful I am that we can live in this good of God. We can think about God, love God, walk in God, enjoy God, project God onto others. I'm grateful for this truth and this being as I release my word into the law, knowing that it is perfect, and so it is. Good morning, CSL Carlsbad. Even though I can't see you, it is good to be with you here this morning. So this morning, what I want to do is I want to dedicate my talk this morning to my cousin, Jeanette. Jeanette had passed away 3 days ago of breast cancer. And I kind of would like to dedicate this talk to, anybody that you may know in your life, or anyone who is going through any kind of cancer, because it is a challenging journey to take. And so my cousin Jeanette, I know that today they are having her ceremony. Actually, right now, they're celebrating her life in Utica, Michigan. And I wish I was there, but I'm definitely with her in spirit and in heart. And what I loved about Jeanette in my life is that when we were little girls, we spent a lot of time together. And Jeanette jumped on a Bible time bus and a born-again Christian religion. And she invited my sister, Barry, and I to do the same. And so every Sunday we would jump on this bus. And it was really the first experience of harvesting faith in my life, harvesting the presence of God, just recognizing that I was actually a child of God. And there was something that was so much greater than I am that created me and created the earth and created everyone around me. And it was a beautiful experience because it was a lot of fun. We learned gospel songs and we learned gospel stories from the Bible, and we memorized our scripture, and we had a great time at church camp in the summer. That's what I look forward to every single year. And still now, I love church camp. So I haven't changed. And Jeanette was just a joyful soul that loved joy and laughter. And when I became Cupcake the Clown and I joined World Clown Association, she also did the same thing because it really inspired her to really give her joy and her laughter to the world, to the children in her family and in her church. So she was definitely a bright light to the world. And I just want to honor her for really assisting me to harvest that faith in my life by inviting me on that Bible time school bus, and how much fun we really did have together as kids. And with my sister, we all really enjoyed ourselves. Definitely singing the songs of Jesus is they're so much fun. I'll even go to the Christian church today and partake in the praise songs. They're really a lot of fun. So what does Jesus say about harvesting the faith? Jesus said to him, if you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes. So if anyone believes anything is possible, it is done unto you as you believe. And this is the teachings of Jesus. He believed in the law of life. And what did Ernest Holmes say about harvesting faith? Ernest Holmes in the religious science textbooks tells us that the gardener goes forth in faith and he sows his seeds. He has learned that as he sows, so shall he reap. That the law works for all of life, that faith is mainly the law of life. If you believe that you can have a little bit of good in your life, then you will receive a little bit of good. If you believe you can receive a whole lot of good, then you will receive a whole lot of good in your life. So it's up to you to harvest the faith in your life. So we must instill into the mind the fundamental proposition that good is without bounds. Only good and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life. And this is Psalms 23. So it is up to us to recognize that there's only one life and that life is good. Now we can believe in duality. We can believe in good and evil, but really there isn't any evil. There's only good. And if we shine the light on the evil, then we have good. So if we know that God doesn't work for us, God works through us. And it's up to us to accept that good and to allow that good into our lives. So yesterday I was working in Escondido. I was a little nervous because I was working and I knew I had a talk today. So I thought, wow, I'm going to need some stories for today. And one of my workers was a very fine person, and he was telling me how much he loved God. And wow, if someone tells me how much they love God, I'm all ears. I usually don't walk around and tell people I'm a minister, and I didn't tell him that, but I did question him about why he loves God and why God is showing up in his life. And he really gave me, I said, because I'm doing a talk on Sunday about faith. And he says, oh, I have a really good faith story for you. And I said, well, I'll take it. So he told me that he is of service to God on a regular basis. He goes into high schools and he speaks about the good of God in his life because he tells his life story. And in his life story, he was one of 13 children born by his mother, and he really never received love. The only physical love that he ever received was from his stepfather that beat him. And he ended up going into the gangs. So he was involved with gangs for many years, and then he went into the prison system for 10 years, and he's been out for 8 years. And during this time, he really dedicated his life to the good of God by going into the schools and talking to the children and telling them that they have a choice, because he was at a crossroads and he had a choice. He could either die, he could live in evil and he could die, or he could live in good. And if he was going to live in good, he had to live a God-ordained life. And that's exactly what he chose. He harvested his faith, and to this day, he continues to live in the grace of God. Now, Martin Luther King quotes, "Faith is taking the first step, even though you don't even see the whole staircase." That's beautiful, because if you have a life that has been bleak in the past and you have to move into the light, you really have to recognize that as you take that step, you have no idea what's around the corner, but you know it's good, and you know that it's God supporting you along the way. Now, I learned something the other day, which I thought was very interesting, that the first female millionaire was the first female millionaire was an African-American woman. And she became a millionaire in 1887. She was actually from the South, from Louisiana, where her parents were working in the cotton fields. And she was married, but her husband had died, and she had a 2-year-old daughter. And her job was to wash clothes. So on a hard washboard, she would wash clothes every single day. But what started to happen to her is that all of her hair started to fall out, and she became bald because she had some kind of skin disease on her head. Now, mind you, in the 1800s, it was a luxury to have a bath. So very few people of that day showered or took baths. So I'm sure most of her problem was from her head not being completely cleaned, and it was irritated. So since she was good with mixing soaps together and washing clothes, she decided to try to mix something together to heal her scalp. And she took a Vaseline liquid tincture, and salt and other healing agents that she could find. She put it all together, and then she applied it to her scalp and to her hair, and all of her hair grew back. So she actually became the wounded healer. She went around to the neighbors, to the other African-American ladies, and demonstrated that her hair had grown back, that they could see. And if they would buy a bottle of her potion, that she would go into their home and show them how to apply it to their scalp. Well, it became very successful, and she ended up going on the road with her daughter and traveling and selling this ointment to women house to house. And then she had other women that worked under her and moving courageously through this faith, especially at that time when women, oh my God, African American women were so suppressed. She actually became a millionaire, and it's such a beautiful story. And she took that money to help her people move forward. She took that money to help young African American children to be educated and to really do good work in the world. So she was truly a blessed light by faith, by harvesting her faith. I am the captain of my fate. I am the master of my soul. A beautiful quote by the unknown. I'm not quite sure who. Another way to foster our faith is through prayer. You know, prayer treatment always works because it is lawful. Not only is it personal, it is also impersonal. To recognizing that we are the presence of the divine, we are a child of God, but yet there is something very impersonal in the universe that always abides by our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions, because in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And your word is the word of God. In Hebrews 11:1, now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. So, you know, when you go on Facebook and they always, Facebook shows you a posting that you did like a year before or 2 years ago. So I went on Facebook and there was a posting that I posted on October 1st in 2019. I thought, oh my God, this is really a posting of deep abiding faith by using the power of prayer to harvest the good in the moment. I flew to Madrid last year on October 1st, 2019 to meet my two girlfriends in Madrid, and we were going to take a bus over to Ponferrada and walk the Camino. So I got on the plane in Los Angeles, and as I was walking on the plane, I took my passport out, and they didn't need my passport. They just took a picture of my face that they had from my passport prior. So I walked on the plane. I thought that was different. And then when I got off the plane, I went over to customs, and I went to take my passport out of my fanny pack, and it wasn't there. And so I looked and I couldn't find my passport. So then I went and sat down in the middle of the floor. And I dumped out everything that was in my fanny pack, and I couldn't find my passport. And then I took my backpack and I dumped everything out from my backpack all over the floor. I mean, everyone was going through customs anyways. They weren't walking around me, and I couldn't find my passport. So I started to freak out, and I went up to the help desk and I told the lady I can't find my passport. And she said, well, we're not going to let you in. If you can't find your passport, you're going to have to get a flight home. That wasn't really an option for me. My friends are waiting for me in a hotel. I can't tell them that I don't have my passport because it will freak them out. So I have to come up with like plan A or B. Like, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can fly back to LA, get my passport, fly in. I'll be a couple of days late, but I'll make it. I don't know what I was going to do. I tried to call LAX to see if they could look for my passport, and no one, of course, answered. You can't get anyone on the phone these days. And so I went back to her. I said, can you just please call the plane and see if they'll look? She goes, okay, I'll do that, but you probably won't get it. That wasn't very confident. So I'm running out of options here. And I thought, well, the only option I didn't take is pray. And why wasn't that my first option? So I, bowed my head. I stopped, I dropped, and I pray. And when I stop, drop, and pray, I just kind of stop what I'm doing. And I drop into my heart space and I talk to God. And I pray into the universal mind exactly what needs to happen. So as I opened my eyes from my prayer, there was a security guard walking towards me. And in Spanish, he said, "Está Lori McMacken?" And I said, yes. And he handed me my passport. Oh my gosh, it was a beautiful moment in time and space reality. So I was able to meet my friends and we went on the Camino. But it was, at the moment, it was very, very scary for me, thinking I was going to fly all the way home. And my friends didn't know how to walk the Camino. So I was trying to come up with plan B. Anyways, plan A works. Never have plan B, only go for plan A. That's what I've learned. If you have a backup plan, that's not good. Don't have a backup plan. Just have God's plan. Oh, but sometimes God's plan is the backup plan. And we can ask questions to the divine. We can say, no matter how little or how big, it doesn't have to be a tragic moment. We can say, okay, how do I do this? How can you guide me to doing this? And this is really harvesting your faith. Like, I've spent so much time in meditation that it's easy for me to hear the voice of God in my mind when I ask a question. So I asked a silly question the other day because I was in the garage and I opened up the garage door and there's all these crickets everywhere in my garage. I thought, well, this is great because I have good luck. But then one of the crickets got into my house and I said, okay, they broke a boundary. They're in my house. I don't want these crickets in my house. I don't want to kill these crickets. How can I naturally just get rid of the crickets? And that was really my question. And then something came to me like, just open the garage door like 2 inches before you go to bed and leave it open all night long. So I did that. The next morning, I opened up the garage door. There was no crickets, and I saw a gecko running around with a big belly. So I think the gecko had a buffet. But the thing is, it wasn't a tragic moment, but it was a moment where I really wanted to listen to God, and I wanted the answer without putting any kind of killer spray on the crickets. Sometimes in our dark moments, we do have to ask, how can I move through this and bring forth light? In 1996, there was a lady named Anne Rowling, and she had a daughter that loved theater. She loved to act, and she loved to make costumes and build sets. And she received the phone call that no mother would ever want to receive, that her teenage daughter was hit head on and was killed instantly. And now she didn't want to allow her grief and her fear to paralyze her in her life. She wanted to honor her daughter, and she wanted in great faith to do something that would honor her and that would honor other people that haven't experienced the same thing. And she was wondering what, positive aspect can she bring forth to honor this tragedy, to empower children and to empower teens, people who love to act. Like, what monument could she build that would maybe even allow other parents to grieve? So she built the Emily Ann Theater in Wimberley, Texas. And this is a permanent home for Shakespeare Under the Stars, where only children and teens are allowed to act on this stage. And and you have to ask yourself, what if each of us could harvest something great from a place of darkness? How could you bring the light into your life? To conceive the possibility of light and call it forth into our life and into our world from something that tragically happened. These are the great questions we ask ourselves. And do we ask God, how can you show me the way, show me the light, give me the answers to whatever it is that needs to express itself in a greater way? And when we live in these questions, it is lawful that you will receive an answer. You will always receive an answer when you ask a question. You don't know when it's going to come, but it will be there. So it is the power of believing that we harvest our faith. It is that power of prayer that we use on a regular basis that we harvest this faith. And it is that power of, being connected to these questions that we ask God, because we want to practice living, moving, and having our beingness in the presence of God. I'm not sure if you received my MailChimp, but on the MailChimp, I had this amazing video of this couple, Trevor and Melanie. And I just want to kindly mention them. Trevor, they both love to hike, and Trevor was like 6'3", and he hikes through the Colorado mountains, but he is blind. And these are not paths that are clear. These are rocky paths with trees and all kinds of, all kinds of challenges for him. And his friend, Melanie, has a spinal disease, and she only stands probably about 5'2" or 1. And he puts her in his backpack, and she is his eyes, and he is her legs. And it's just beautiful how they faithfully utilize each other's gifts so they can enhance their own lives. And Melanie at the end of the video says, if you have a crazy idea, it's okay. And if you can get someone else who has a crazy idea, then it's not really such a crazy idea anymore. So they've really put their two heads together, and they've blessed themselves, and they've blessed the world. Really was showing us video of them doing this. It just seems, it seems kind of out of boundaries to do, but I'm grateful that they were able to share this with the world. So faith is like Wi-Fi. It's invisible, but it has the power to connect you to what you need. And always remember that. So let's go in, and I'll pray for everyone. And just bring someone into your mind's eye, your heart, that may be having a challenge right now, maybe having struggle in their life. Maybe they do have cancer or some kind of dis-ease. Maybe they lost their job, or they're in the COVID-19. Whatever it is that may be plaguing them right here and right now, bring them into your heart space. As I recognize there's only one power and one presence and one essence of divine love and light that is expressing itself perfectly through all of life and individually, and knowing that I am one with this power, this presence of life. I know each and every person here on this call is one with the life of God. I know that the person that you have in your heart space right here and right now is perfect, is whole, is complete, is on the divine path, being held in the loving arms of God. And I'm grateful for this. All is well as the mind of God. And I know for my cousin Jeanette that she moves into the eternal with ease and grace, that this is a part of her soul's evolution, that she meets her ancestors, her angels, Jesus the Christ. They're all there waiting for her, to love her, to hold her, and to guide her on her path. I'm grateful for everyone here on this call today, recognizing that only harvesting the faith in your life brings you good and loving kindness. As I release my word into the law, knowing that it is done and it is perfect, and so it is. God bless you.